Depot's billionaire co-founder, Ken Langone, had a little bit of a meltdown over Elizabeth Warren's proposal for a wealth tax. In fact, he had the meltdown in front of Elizabeth Warren on national television, which means we're gonna drink some rich man's tears. It's time for When Rich Men Cry.
I care. That's it.
Look, say what you want to say about Elizabeth Warren. You can't take away the fact that this woman has led to Leon Cooperman having that wonderful cry fest on CNBC. And now we're gonna talk about Ken Langone, a huge Trump supporter, billionaire, and someone who apparently doesn't like the idea of paying taxes. So let's get to the first part of his meltdown, where he just thinks he pays way too much in taxes, but he tries to use a little trick here. Pay attention.
Tax is negative compound interest. It's what it is. You're right. I made all the money. I paid the government what I owed them. What I had left, I put at risk. I could have lost it all. But I paid my share. I have a bigger issue for the senator that I think I would hope she would address that to me is apple pie and motherhood. Senator,
could we talk about the wealth tax just for a minute before we change subjects here?
Senator, I have an easy one for you, and you're going to be shocked that I'm bringing it up from a fat cat Wall Street guy. How do you rationalize giving me $3,000 a month check every month with all my wealth? Why don't you people have the courage to address entitlements as to what should no longer be an entitlement? I shouldn't get Social Security. Tell me why I should get a check and my wife gets another $1,000 on top of that. Take it away from me. Have the courage to do it. I know it's the third rail of politics, but do it.
So let's start with the wealth tax. That's where we were.
You don't want to address the issue. You don't want to address the issue of how I'm getting $4 grand a month from the government and I shouldn't be getting it?
Can I answer some of these questions?
Sure, please.
All right, thank you. So I'll start with the first one, and that was the question about the wealth tax.
Did you guys catch that little wink right there, where he thought that little rant was like perfect? He's like, got him. If you missed the wink, I'll show you what it looked like in slow-mo.
Questions?
Sure, please.
All right, thank you. So I'll start with the first one, and that was the
What a goon, what an absolute goon. Now, Elizabeth Warren handled it well, so we'll get to her video in just a second, but I do wanna note something. Social Security, which he claims he's receiving $3,000 from, and then later said $4,000. He doesn't even know what the number is. He's a billionaire. So to be fair, he's right in that money isn't money that he needs. But it's important to have universal programs because universal programs are far more popular. Universal programs are a lot more difficult to scale back because everyone's receiving it. Everybody likes money, everyone does. And when you look at the public polling on Social Security, it's abundantly clear the majority of Americans love it, and only a tiny percentage of Americans want to scale it back or cut the program. So what he's doing there is trying to make it appear as though, this is the Social Security program. I mean, it's waste. It's waste because a billionaire like me shouldn't be receiving that money. But the way Elizabeth Warren answered that question, I think was perfect. So let's take a look at that.
And you ask about Social Security. I think Social Security really is the thing that is structured differently. It's structured as an insurance policy. And you paid in year after year after year. And part of the contract was if you would pay in, you would get this kind of return on the back end. It's not somebody's welfare. It's not somebody's charity. It was an agreement that every employee in the country who is eligible for Social Security paid into and gets a return at the back end.
She's right about that. Now, as we know, wealthy people have all sorts of tax loopholes that they can take advantage of. But for the most part, we all pay into the Social Security system. There's a cap in terms of the amount of income that gets taxed for Social Security. So if you're a high earner at a certain point, it's somewhere around, I think last time I checked, I think $130-something thousand. Past that amount, you don't pay into Social Security anymore. But the reason why it's a universal program is because it's something that everyone pays into. And so I think she answered that perfectly. But I would have also added the fact that universal programs are super popular. Let me give you those numbers right now. So first off, it's incredibly important to the majority of Americans because the majority of Americans, sadly, rely on Social Security as a huge portion of their income during retirement. I say sadly because Social Security isn't enough to retire on for most people. And to know that such a huge percentage of Americans rely on that as their major source of income after they retire just gives you a sense of how necessary it is, but also how it needs to be a little more robust. We need to offer more to Americans, retirees in this program. Now, 57% of retirees indicated in our April of 2019 survey, this is from Gallup, by the way, this year, that Social Security is a major source of income in their retirement, eclipsing by far the second and third sources, retirement accounts such as 401ks and IRAs and work-sponsored pension plans. Look, 401ks, IRAs or IRAs, depending on how you like to say it, they're tied to risk. So you might be approaching retirement and the market can completely collapse and you lose a giant portion of your retirement. And I mean, that's what happened in 2008 for so many Americans. Social Security is not tied to risk. It's tied to how much you've contributed to the system. So if you've been taxed at the maximum amount for Social Security, you'll get the maximum payout once you're ready to retire. But even then, as I mentioned, Social Security isn't robust enough for people to comfortably retire on. But as I mentioned, 47% of Americans rely on that as their main source of income when they retire. Pew Research Center reported that 74% of Americans say that Social Security benefits should not be reduced in any way. And previous Pew research found that only 6% favored cutting government spending on Social Security. A Marist NPR PBS poll found last year, this is an older study, by the way, so it's not last year, this is from 2018 specifically, found in 2018 that 6 in 10 Americans would prefer to reverse the 2017 tax bill, otherwise known as tax cuts for the rich, rather than cut entitlement programs like Social Security if necessary to reduce the deficit. So that's really the situation here. When Ken Langone is like, why don't you cut Social Security? It's because it's political suicide. Cutting Social Security does not poll well with Democrats, certainly doesn't poll well with Republicans, doesn't poll well with Americans. They want to maintain that program. It is a popular, universal program. So while Ken Langone is trying to play that little trick of like, but I'm rich and I shouldn't be getting that money. I mean, he could reject it. He could reject it, but he doesn't. Because it's not really about him wanting to reject the money. It's about him wanting to avoid paying into Social Security. And remember, it's not just getting taxed for Social Security. If you're a business owner, you pay payroll taxes. Payroll taxes also fund Social Security. He don't like that. You don't like that at all, okay? So let's get to one more video featuring Elizabeth Warren and Ken Langone that I thought was fascinating.
Let's look at someone like Jeff Bezos, who is worth $1 bazillion. He has not paid taxes on all of that wealth. Don't describe it that way. In fact, Jeff Bezos, many years, has either paid nothing in taxes or he's paid about 1%. Why? Because his income is very, very small, but he continues to grow his wealth through all of his Amazon stock. And how does he then fund a lifestyle like he does? Not by cashing in Amazon stock, but by borrowing against it. Right now, we have a tax system, because it focuses principally on wealth, that actually doesn't capture the folks at the very top. It makes middle class folks pay, it makes working class folks pay, but it doesn't make those at the top pay. A wealth tax is an opportunity to say, if you're at the very, very top, you have to make a contribution too.
Listen, I don't have much to add to what she said there, other than I like the fact that she spoke to him like he was a child, because he acts like a child. She has to talk slowly, she has to soften her voice, because he's acting like a baby. He's crying like a baby on national television, even though he is a billionaire, even though he lives comfortably, even though he has been able to thrive in a system that is rigged in his favor. The idea of paying more into this system, providing more opportunity for others, just leads to a temper tantrum on national television for Ken Langone. He can't even sit still and listen while Senator Warren is speaking to him. Act like a child, you're gonna get treated like a child. And then you're gonna get made fun of on this show, especially when you act like a child like that, when you're crying on national television as a billionaire. It's just pathetic.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.